What's up, everyone? Webinar Wednesday here, and we are joined by Mr. Bill, the pressure washing king. Bill, how's it going today?
Doing all right yourself.
Hey, I can't complain. Football season kicks off for Nebraska tomorrow, and that's a big time in the state of Nebraska. So
Okay.
always a good time of year, when we get football season rolling. So definitely excited for that. Um, we'll jump in with you here, Bill, in just a moment. While we have people kind of funneling in here, I do want to just give a few quick high level housekeeping items. Uh, a lot of us are pretty familiar with Zoom by now. But those of you joining us, we want to make this as interactive and as valuable as possible for you guys. So a couple things here. You've got two ways that you can interact with us. You can use the chat feature, so webinar chat. If you want to go ahead and find that and just test it out right now, let us know where you're joining from. That will be a good spot. So if you have any just thing to add, any color to add to today's conversation, chat is a great place for that. If you have an actual, hey, this is a question I want to get answered, the Q&A button is where you're going to want to live for that. So we've got the chat. I see Michael and Andrew and Amy in there. That is awesome. Add your color there. Q&A, though, if you have a question for myself, for Bill, we will get that answered. I also always preface that I will kind of keep the train on the tracks for Bill, but if he's just chugging along, I probably won't interrupt him with your question unless I feel like, hey, we definitely need to interrupt and get that question answered now. So some of those I may save till the end. So if you type it in the Q&A section, I promise it's there. It's not going to get lost. We will get that answered for you. So without further ado, let's jump into this thing. Again, Bill, thank you so much for joining us today. We are here to talk about how basically you can leverage CompanyCam as a documentation tool, but then how that documentation can be leveraged to also put money in your pocket as a business. Before we dive into kind of that topic, let's go real high level on what you do from the home service space, Mr. How long you've been in business, what you guys offer as far as services, and then we'll dive into some questions from there.
Okay. So I started this business about 5.5 years ago. Started with just residential house washing and surface cleaning, driveways, sidewalks, stuff like that. Since then, I've dipped into the commercial space probably the past 2 or 3 years. 3 years back, it was cleaning commercial spaces with residential equipment. So definitely took me a lot longer, not the best use of time. So that was definitely one of the things I had to learn is, you have to acquire new equipment and, just like softwares as you grow to make life easier. And since then, now I do the house washing and surface cleaning. I also do window cleaning for commercial spaces. I do interior VCT tile floor strip and re-wax for commercial properties. Little bit of roof cleaning, dryer vent cleaning in the cool months is just something to kind of keep some income coming in. And that's about it. I am a solo guy. I don't have any employees. It's just me. Estimates come in. I'm the one who does them. I'm the one who shows up to the job, and knock on wood, it doesn't happen often, but if something isn't pretty and it has to go back and get fixed, that's me too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit on a couple things there that I want to just kind of add a little bit to. You started with, hey, this is what I do, and since then you've added here, added there, done these different things. You're in pressure washing. You do some floor stripping and resealing.
Mhm.
But at the core, you're a pressure washer. Everybody joining us, I guarantee, is going through that same, progression in their business, whether they're in pressure washing or not. It's like, yeah, I started as a residential roofer, and then we moved into repairs, and then we maybe jumped into the commercial side of things, and now we do windows and siding, or my painters that are joining us, same thing. Like maybe we started residential, now we're on interior of commercial buildings, and maybe we added concrete coatings. Like, so I think that's important to note as we're going through the conversation today, is that these home service trades, while different at the core, what you're doing day to day is a different trade. The same problems, the same issues, the same growth, they're happening across the board. And I think it's really interesting where you said you're a solopreneur, and we talked offline a little bit how you're wanting to grow the business and potentially add some crews. And I've got some questions around that later on in the webinar as well. But let's dive into kind of the core here of why we're here, and that's the documentation piece. And I think that we're in an age finally where documentation is a must. Like there's rarely a day where I talk to a contractor that says, you know what, I don't need to document anything on my job. Like it's pretty much a known fact that I need to somehow document what I'm doing on my job. For you, when you kind of came to that realization as a contractor, and said, hey, I need to embrace this thing of documentation, was it more for the marketing, sales, driving new revenue, or was it more of like, hey, this is just a liability and I need to CYA to make sure that I'm not getting blamed for things that I didn't do, or some combination of those?
So yeah, it's both, right? So like what you talked about when you mentioned anyone else watching, no matter what industry it is, we're all kind of in the same boat, and really we're all in customer service, and we provide different services. Someone is hiring us. The way I see it, someone's not hiring a pressure washer, they're hiring me to wash their house or to wash their building or what have you. So when it comes to documentation, like from day one, I said, okay, have to be licensed and insured, because on the books, you have to look professional. Everything I do, I mentioned my shirt matches my truck matches my trailer, everything. When I pull up in your driveway, it's all cohesive. That whole professionalism is really, I think, part of what helped me grow so fast, so quickly. So I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. The documentation end of it, from day one, like I bought an iPad and I would take pictures of every house and be like, oh, what are you doing that for marketing? It's like, well, that and insurance. God forbid I do some damage to your house, I need to be able to file an insurance claim. Oh, okay, well, that's great. Well, then when I get home, of course, I'm going to take the dirtiest side of the house, the before picture and the after picture, and then put that on my Facebook page, or if I'm running ads or anything like that, to then generate more business. So it's both. And to be completely honest, I saw CompanyCam advertised for probably about 3 years before I signed up. But I thought to myself, well, I can take pictures and I can go into my little app on my phone and put the before and after in there, and I can handle all that myself. But what it came down to was the amount of time that I took when I would take those pictures and have to come home and then hook that up to my computer and download all those, and then say, okay, how am I going to file these? All right, each client gets their own folder, and then, okay, well, I service some clients multiple times a year, so now I have to do inside each client, I have to do a month and a date, and I have to transfer those pictures. And a lot of times I'll get a client who will call and say, hey, you washed my house, a couple months ago, I'm ready to have my driveway done now. And I was like, okay, well, I can't remember offhand what it looks like. I don't have, I can't access the pictures on my phone because they're at home on my computer. Otherwise, I would have to have 3 phones to hold all those pictures. The average house wash I do, I think, has about 25 pictures minimum. Commercial jobs are up. I think the largest one I have right now, I think I'm at 250 before pictures. And that's a lot to then have to go through and individually, okay, when did I take that? Was it when I got there, or was it afterwards? So CompanyCam allowed me to then just be able to click as much as I needed to. And if I ever needed to tag something with a specific headline or something to be able to find later on, I was able to do that. Whereas I could not do that on my own, what I'd call the old fashioned way. Not to mention just having it, available to me at all times. If client were to call or whatever, I'm out on another job and need to look back at something. If they had a question, I can go through and flip back and find it easily.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that answer. There's a couple of things I want to draw attention to. First off, you mentioned the old fashioned way, and you're talking about like I was using an iPad and I was putting it in folders. Like
Yeah.
the varying degree and definition of old fashioned, I love, because I've been with CompanyCam 7 years now. And Bill, I've talked to contractors that were transitioning from Polaroids that they would put into actual paper folders to, now I'm using CompanyCam, and every degree in between, the digital camera where I would come and drop off my SD card and
Yep.
somebody at the office would manually have to upload those. And we have a multitude of people that join us. So whether you're using CompanyCam or not, one thing I always like to draw attention to, I use the analogy of CompanyCam as kind of the Cadillac or the Mercedes. Like there's a lot of vehicles out there to get you from point A to point B. And, a Toyota, there's nothing wrong with it. It's going to work. And, that's kind of what you were doing is like, oh, we were using an iPad. We were putting them in folders and it was working for me. I didn't realize what I was missing from having a Cadillac or a Mercedes taking me from point A to point B until I got CompanyCam. And I think that's an interesting analogy to think about too, is like, hey, a lot of ways to skin the cat. CompanyCam, like you said, saves you a ton of time. You didn't even realize it, which is awesome. For you, I wanted to dive into where you were talking about, 25-ish photos on a standard job up to upwards of, I would assume, probably close to 500 on that large commercial job if you're already at 250 on the front end.
Yep.
Are there specific photos that, at the high level you take on every job, where it's like, hey, these are things that, from a CYA perspective or from a sales perspective that I want to make sure I get taken on every job?
Yeah. So no matter what, I just call them my all arounds. And ultimately, I'm running a business, and do I need to market for the future? Yes. But in that moment, I need to make sure that I'm protected and my client's property is protected. So off the bat, I mean, if you're just talking about an average, picture a square house, it's a street front view of the house, so I can see all the landscaping that's there, because obviously spraying chemicals on a house, a lot of people are concerned about their landscaping. So got to make sure the landscaping have a good before picture if there's stuff that's already, previously damaged. Or if there's a really nice, in the pressure washing industry, we're real careful around Japanese maples because they're so sensitive. So I always do a wide shot of the house. That way I can instantly remember when I see it. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that house. It's got the trees over here, or, this color siding, whatever. And I'll usually go counterclockwise around the house, and it'll be a front shot, front and side, and then a side, and then a side and back, all the way around. And then in between, if there's areas, if I'm doing a house wash that's really dirty, I'm like, okay, well, that's going on my website or going on a Facebook ad. I'll go up and I'll take a close up. And I just call those the wow shots, because those are my before and afters. And I'll do that in between. If I'm doing a dryer vent service, usually I have a anometer that measures air velocity and temperature, and I'll take a picture of that before and after the service to show the improvement. If I'm doing window cleaning and there's a cracked piece of glass, before I start, and do that to say, okay, this was already broken. Or on a house, if there's siding loose, okay, this was already like that. And that's, another good thing about CompanyCam is it, timestamps and geolocates via a third party. So I can't go in and edit that. So if there ever was that, oops scenario where something happened, that's the fallback. So definitely the all arounds are automatic. I mean, even if it's just a single side of a house and it's not even that dirty, I'll get realtors that'll call once in a while and say, hey, the front's kind of dusty. Can you just clean it up for the open house? And yeah, just go there real quick. And I'm not going to advertise that, but definitely I want to take a picture of it just in case anything were to happen, that it's, the state that it was in, for, insurance purposes, if ever needed.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love you refer to it as all around. Like, I love that. And I think that's something that, again, it doesn't matter what trade you're in. You're there to do a job. Like you said, you're there to provide a service of some kind, but documenting what is there that may be outside of the scope of what you're there to fix. If I'm there to fix the roof, sometimes we get caught up in only taking those photos of the roof. And like you mentioned, the landscaping, the yard, the pool, maybe there is a ripped screen, damaged siding, something along those lines that a homeowner may not know about. But when your ladder's in that vicinity, it's like all of a sudden, like, oh, it was probably their ladder that is actually what broke that or caused that to be that way. And so that's something I think across the board, everybody should be doing, is like, hey, let's do an audit of the job site that we're going to be on, depending on size and scope of the job. Like, I would even say you could add in like the safety component of that. Like, hey, in this situation, I'm going to be up on a commercial building. Like, let me get some safety audit photos just so that I have those.
Yep.
And I think that's really good. You mentioned something, so I just want to dive into a feature here. I love the wow. I think you said wow shots. I love that, and I think that's something to be like building into your process as a contractor, of like thinking, 3, 4, 5 steps down the road. And I'm like, hey, when we change this, clean this, fix this, whatever it is, that's going to be a really impressive shot. You can use the tagging actually as a way to quickly find all of my wow shots, if that makes sense. So, for you could call it the wow tag, or you could add a marketing tag or whatever it is. But that's just a little feature side here for everybody joining us. Like, I love that concept of thinking ahead. Like, hey, this is going to be one that I use in marketing. Let's tag that marketing wow, whatever you guys refer to those as. And then
those pictures I'll put in your showcase integration. I think we were supposed to talk about that later, but just wanted to plug it now, because those are the wow shots for a reason, because I don't want someone to look at a wide angle shot of a house where you can just see, okay, I guess the siding's a little brighter. Like, I want the up close, like I call them the dirty pictures. Everyone wants to see the dirty pictures because that's the biggest the biggest difference. So that's what I use those for.
Yeah, I love that. Let's dive into the showcase a little bit as well, because it's a great feature, probably one of the more underutilized features of CompanyCam, because it has that element that's outside of the app. So you do have to go and install the widget on your website, but essentially what it allows you to do then is keep your website current with jobs. So I'm able to take photos in CompanyCam, and with one click, I can publish that entire job with photos, with description, right to my website. I'm sure there's upsells, like you mentioned, in the pressure washing, but there's upsells in every trade, or there's types of jobs that you prefer to, do that have the higher margins, whatever it may be. Whenever I talk to contractors, I always say, hey, you're going to sell what you advertise. So if your roofing is the one that people are like, I just keep selling these dang 3-tab jobs, and it's like, well, what jobs are you marketing? Well, I'm marketing 3-tab jobs. Like, obviously you're going to sell those. And so I think the showcase is a great way to maybe showcase, like you said, some of the really dirty jobs, or maybe some of the things that like people don't even know that they want to have done. Like, hey, we did this house cleaning, but then we also did pressure wash this pool deck or this driveway, and like, look at that transformation. And it's like, oh, like I'm selling, the add-ons, the upsells, the higher margin jobs. And so if you're not using showcases, I see Christian drop that into the chat there. Check those out. Reach out to your customer success manager. We can help you, navigate getting that installed. But thank you for bringing that up, because I think showcases are something that we really, really need to continue to push and get people using.
Yeah, and once again, as someone as a solopreneur, I have to do everything. Once that widget is up, which I'm mildly tech savvy, but I'm no genius. I had it set up in 10 minutes, and once it's up, it's going. So all I have to do is click, one little button in there, and it'll add a job to it on my website, or it'll take it off. So the ease of it. So then when I do my before and afters, all I have to do is click one button. I don't even have to go to the website. So the ease of it, just like switching from the iPad to CompanyCam, it's the same, trajectory. It's just like night and day difference. Like before, I used to have to go in and Okay, now I got to pull all these in and make a PDF. Then I have to upload the PDF, and then I have to, get the link, and then embed the link, and then okay, well now I got to shift it over because it doesn't look good. And the widget is in there and it's squared and it's centered and it scrolls and that's it.
Yeah, I love that. I would challenge everybody joining us. Don't go now because I want you to stay in Zoom with us. But as soon as we're done, go check out your website and see the last time you have updated photos on your website from jobs you did. Some of you may have done a great job of that, and some of you are probably like, "Oh man, we built our website like 9 years ago, and it's the same photos." Some may still even have stock, images on their website, and it's really powerful to be able to show work that you've done recently and continue to update that. So, and if like you said, not hard to get installed. It's probably more daunting than anything, like thinking about like I'm gonna go actually put this widget on my website, and then when you get in there it's like, oh, this is actually pretty straightforward and easy.
Exactly. Not to mention, if you have descriptions, then those tag into your SEO. So if someone, like you had mentioned, the 3 versus the 5 tab shingle jobs, if you have in your description 5 tag shingle job, well, now you have something on there that Google's going to crawl and find. And once again, you didn't have to do anything except click the little button at the top of the screen to turn showcase on. So
Absolutely. And I think this kind of comes back to like the core of today's conversation as well when we're thinking about this. Like, you never take a photo for now. And in your case, you're a one-man operation. Like, you're still taking photos, and you're not taking them for now because you're there. You see what it looks like now. You're taking them for some reason in the future, whether that's the CYA aspect to be able to show, no, on August 14th at 3 p.m. when I did that initial walkthrough, you can see that the window's cracked or whatever. Or you're taking them for future work, and you're able to leverage that documentation in your marketing and those kind of things. Um, with that being said, thinking about like being a one-man operation and being in, I use the analogy of the Toyota, and you were, ahead of the time, you're taking photos on an iPad, you were sorting them, things were great. What was it? You said you had seen CompanyCam for 3 years. Why did you finally feel it was important to pull the trigger and invest in a piece of software to, help with your documentation?
Uh, so I just the amount of time when I would get home, like I would stop looking forward to going through it and be like, well, I'll just do it at the end of the week. So then I started doing weekly uploads. Well, what happens when Friday night there was an event going on? Well, okay, I'll just do it on Sunday. Well, football's on Sunday. So, not taking the day off for that. So then it got to be, okay, I'm gonna do it once a month. And then when that started getting pushed back, then I'm having to manually sort through, you know, uh, 40, 50 jobs, 6, 7, 800 pictures and sort them all. It just got to be too much. And like I said before, it was just taking up space on my computer too. Like I still have files on there. I was like, okay, well, you were running some sort of a special because I had talked to a rep at the huge convention and said, try it for a month and see. It's like, okay, I have a commercial job coming up, and just off what I had, went to YouTube University and looked up CompanyCam and saw, how to put the reports together. And I was like, okay, well, looks like a simpler version of what I was doing on my iPad. So I was like, let me try it. It's free. So I did it, and it actually sold me the job. And it was for a state park. So it went over very well. And just the way that I did basically the same thing that I did on my iPad. It was just the ease of doing it, not to mention the picture storage, able to tag. I like that you can go in and crop the pictures. You can put arrows, you can put colored boxes, you can put text all right on there on top of the descriptions, the timestamping, the location, all that. And then I'd say my favorite part of it would be the share link. I can email that link to whoever requested the bid from me, and they can just say, okay, well, I'm going to send this up to my boss, and they're okay, well, I'm going to send it up to my boss and their partner, and it's one link. They can all view it at the same time. Everything is right there. It's concise, and I don't have to worry about storage. I don't have to worry about if I'm on my Wi-Fi connection, it automatically uploads, so I don't have to sit there and do it. It pops up if I'm in a location, locations near you. So if I show up to these places that I service regularly, I don't even have to type in their name to find them. It just geolocates, it pops up, and I just click the little camera button and I take pictures that are already then separated by date. So after I'd say 2 weeks of using it, I was like, I'm probably going to keep this. And I mean, by the end of the free trial, I was like, absolutely, there's no way that I could go back.
Yeah.
I bought the Mercedes. I'm not going to go back to the Toyota.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, you hear the line all the time that nobody cares more about a business than the owner. And so in your case, like when you're saying like, and the thoughts are in your head of it's taking up space on my phone, it's taking up space on my computer, it's eating into my Friday night, it's eating into my Sunday, it's doing these things. If you're an owner and you're joining us, like Bill cares more about Mister than anyone else. He's the only guy there. You as owners care more about your business than anyone else. So if those thoughts creep into your head as an owner, imagine what your teams that are in the field are thinking when it's like, oh, I'm in this Toyota. I'm taking pictures that's filling my phone up. Let me take the bare minimum photos because I don't want to fill my phone with work photos, or I have to at Friday night or every night after the job or once a month or whatever the process is. I have to go and upload these into Dropbox or Google Drive or, manually upload them into my CRM. I promise your team's taking the least amount of photos possible to get by. It's like, well, if I have to upload all these, 10 photos will suffice on this job. And even though I might have taken 40, that's 40 is a lot more work than uploading 10. And so I think that's a really important thing to like draw attention to. Like we just heard you say it, Bill, like, man, this was eating into my Friday nights, my Sundays.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give up my NFL football. Your crews are feeling that, and they're feeling that exponentially more because they don't own the business. So it's like for them, it's like when I get done on Friday, I'm done. Like I don't have all the worries of being a business owner. So I think that's a really important thing. You mentioned the state park and that job, and we don't have to use that particular job, but I just want to like think about jobs in general. Kind of take me through, how you are. We talked about, the front end photos, the before and afters. How are you presenting that, or what does that process look like? Maybe leveraging the initial consultation and bid, how you leverage CompanyCam in that, all the way through to completion, and being able to say like, hey, here's the before and after that you mentioned that you do. Here's the, post job audit that we've done to show that, was it the Japanese maple you said is really sensitive? Like,
Yep.
hey, see your Japanese maple, she's still beautiful, and you see all your, landscaping. And those are things that across the board, like, hey, post job, look, here's the yard. There's no nails. Like we've rolled the magnet through it 3 times or whatever it is. So kind of take me through that process from the consultation bid through completion and kind of where you're interjecting CompanyCam throughout.
So for consultation, obviously I'll do a walk around with whoever's requesting the work and see, okay, what exactly do they want done? So then I'll go through and I'll take my pictures of everything that they want and anything else that I see. Because I always tell them I'd much rather bring something to your attention now in the quote process and have you be like, no, we're not worried about that right now. Or, oh yeah, we didn't think about that, but if we're cleaning above, why wouldn't we clean below? Because it's gonna just be better in the long run. So anything like that, I'd rather them tell me, hey, we don't want that, than 2 months later be like, hey, we're kind of regretting we didn't do this. Can you do it now? And it ends up being more expensive for them because it's a separate trip out there to do it when it could have just been all done at once. Not to mention that would then make a larger check for me at the end. So I'll always go through, and later on when you show the consultation report that I prepare, I go in and I say, okay, well, here's what you wanted. These areas here, are what I would recommend doing also, just so you're aware, this is here and it's in this shape. If there's any maintenance issues, I show up all the time, and especially on larger commercial properties, there will be busted hose spigots. So I'll be able to photograph those and put in the report, hey, you've got a spigot here that needs maintenance. Oh yeah, there you go, you got it up. So that part right there, that top photo or second photo, I'm able to show, there's improper cleaning methods that were used at this property before. So I'm able to highlight, like, see how bad that looks? Like, there's a reason for it. Everything, time and date stamped. I think if you scroll down a little bit more, it'll show that there should be a spigot in there somewhere. But those spigots, they have keys to turn them on and off, and they'll, people are careless and they'll bust the head off or something. So it's like, okay, well, if that's what I need to work and it's not functioning, even if I don't need it on that side of the building, I'll still document it just to show them, because if anything else, hey, they just got a free consultation to let their maintenance people know, hey, we've got work to do to get stuff, back in order here. So that's basically it as far as the consultation goes. Able to highlight all the dirtiest areas, for me, that need to be taken care of. And here's that area right there, that wall. They didn't want that quoted initially, but it's right in plain view of the area that I was cleaning. So I was like, well, if they're sitting there and it's clean and they're looking around at a dirty wall, really not that big of an improvement if you think about it. And I was actually able to upsell that, and it was a considerable amount. And there were several areas on this job where I was able to upsell other things that weren't requested. So that gets emailed out through my CRM, with every commercial bid. And once again, they can share it, they can pass it along to however many higher ups they want to. And yeah, it's gotten me a good bit of extra work on top of just landing the jobs, because a lot of times commercial people, they'll always need to get at least 3 bids. I go in there, looking the part, the nice shirt, the nice truck, everything's clean and organized. They get a nice professional looking proposal packet, and they get this, that photo documents everything. I mean, it looks legit, and a lot of people, if they're just in it for the quick buck, they're not going to take what little extra time it takes once you have the software and the means to do everything. And it makes a big difference. And I've gotten several jobs where I know my cost was higher than my competitors, and my competitors were larger companies than I was. But it ultimately came down to, it's the customer service. It does more, I think, than anything else, being able to show that professionalism and just have all that stuff just laid out there. I don't have a lot of questions. Everything I submit, they're like, okay, well, that's everything. That all looks really good,
Yeah, I would even add to that, like, yeah, the professionalism, but as I was just scrolling through this to show the audience, like, my brain was just going to, man, Bill really shows why he's the expert at what he's going to do. And like, you kind of couple those things where it's like, yeah, Bill's very professional, looks the part, and holy cow, he's an expert. He's, setting himself apart from these other people, and we trust him now. And it's, I think some of those,
also educating them. And
100%.
a lot of contractors will come in and just say, yeah, it needs this, and this, but not explain why or how or anything like that. And that goes across multiple industries. If you educate your client, it's just a level of comfort that they feel with you, because it's not where you're just in it, to get in and out so quick. Like, you're taking your time to educate them on, the process or what needs to be done, because you're the specialist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, I love this. So I'm going to go to Alejandro's question here. So you create a report for each estimate. Is that kind of how you do it? I know you mentioned commercial. Do you do a report on the residential side of things?
Mostly just commercial. Residential, where I'm located, which is pretty rural, there's not a lot of what I consider like large properties, like, mansions or anything like that. I do have a couple properties that I travel for where it's, an 8,500 square foot house and has all, decorative pavers and all of this stuff. Residential jobs like that, I will, but your average house wash for me, a basic service, I don't, just because it's not a huge sale. If someone is super particular in how things are getting done, or they do have, they want, the whole 9 yards, they want the house, the windows, the roof, they have this ornate brick staircase. They have granite statues that they want restoration processes done on. They have, irrigation rust and efflorescence and stuff like that. I would, but that's 1 in 100 for residential. But any of the big ticket items, like any commercial job, even if it's a $500 quickie, just show up and hose something down quick, I'll do it, because you never know what that one job will lead to. And I've shown up for some calls that were just literally on the moment. Hey, we just need this real quick. It's, cheap as possible. And I've done those jobs, and those jobs have then landed me, net 10, 20, 30 times that amount within the next 6 months, just because they were happy. And showing to a commercial entity, especially where it's repeat work needed. Residential, it's when something's broke, or once every couple of years. Commercial work needs to be done constantly. Same thing across all industries: plumbing, landscaping, painting, electrical, insulation. There's always something to come up. So if you're in there, if you can get in and show that, hey, you look the part, you play the part, and you do a good job, and you have good looking estimates and invoices and documentation, all that, they're going to remember that and say, hey, we need this done. Well, call so and so, because they did really good when they helped us out that one time.
Yeah, absolutely. So two things I would add there. You hit the nail on the head with that, where it's like that referral piece. And in the residential world, referrals go a long ways. In the commercial world, referrals are massive, because the people that own businesses and own these large buildings and structures, those kind of things, they know other people that own businesses in large commercial structures and those kind of things. And it's, if you do a really good job, it's, they take the word there as like, hey, I need somebody to come and do that. Or who did you have do that? Like, oh, Mr. did it. They did an amazing job. You should have him out. I've got his number here. Let me, they love that introduction piece too, of like helping out their fellow business owners. So
quick story. Do I have time for a quick story?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the proposal that you showed was for a medical building for a hospital. And the way I got that job, I had a call from a daycare center that needed their interior floors cleaned. And at the time, I didn't have any of the equipment to do that. And the way I built my business is I didn't buy everything up front. As the need came up, or the desire, I'd say, okay, well, I'll invest in this. This job will pay for it, and I'll expand on it from there. So doing that one floor job for a daycare center on a whim, 3-day lead time. Hey, this needs to be done in 3 days. Can you help us, please? The person who used to do those floors then referred me to give the rest of his hard floor work to, which then led to this hospital saying, hey, do you know anyone who does, exterior cleaning? He's like, well, I got someone who does floors for me. He does pretty good. So I had an interview with this guy and sat down, and he literally said, anyone off the street could come in and talk to my receptionist and ask who they need to talk to about facility care. And she's going to say, here, call so-and-so, and it's not going to be me. He said, you'll never find my information out there. No one will ever direct you to me. The only reason I'm going to do work with someone is if I'm referred. And that's the way a lot of them work. And off that job, I've gotten 3 more, and it's all just the people at the top talking, because everyone else underneath is directed, send them in the circle. Oh, send an email to this person, leave a voicemail to this person. And some of the larger, this hospital in particular, their IT department, if they do not have your email in their system, it won't even get through. It doesn't even get sent to a spam folder. He said, anytime you email me, you have to let me know within 24 hours so I can unlock your email. He won't see it. Not a chance. His receptionist won't see it. It just gets dumped. So like you said, those contacts for commercial, they go more than a long way. They'll take you to the moon.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to add to that, Alejandro, for, residential, one big thing you can do is just leverage the timeline link, because like Bill mentioned, a lot of these residential jobs they're smaller in terms of like square footage. It's not like it's hundreds of photos, but whether you're in roofing, painting, whatever it is, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Jones, I'm going to go head up on your roof, do the inspection now. Here's a timeline link. Go ahead and sit here on the porch or sit at the kitchen table, wherever you are sitting, and you're going to be able to follow along as I'm taking these pictures, because the timeline linking CompanyCam is a live link. And that does a really powerful job too, of back to the education piece of, hey, if I'm taking the photos, maybe marking them up, doing some things like that, maybe take a quick video, I'm able to educate that homeowner while I'm up there. And then when I'm getting down, they've already got some ideas of, hey, what are we working with here versus saying like, oh, I hope when that roofer comes down from the ladder, they don't tell me I need to replace my roof. You're educating them, showing them the problems. So that's another way you can kind of get around whether you make a report or not. Amy mentioned task list, punch list capabilities. Um, we called those checklists. I don't know, Bill, if you use checklists much, but we did drop the link to our YouTube video on checklists there, Amy. I'm going to drop my email in here as well. So I would be happy to dive deeper into any checklist questions you have. I don't know, Bill, do you use checklists at all currently?
I do not. I've seen it, and I just haven't had time to look into it yet.
Yep, absolutely. Well, the YouTube video's there, Amy, but you also have my email, so don't hesitate to shoot me an email. My emails are twice because Christian is on the ball, although I did beat him into the chat there. Alejandro also asked, do your invoices include a report of the final work? I think that's a perfect segue. You shared another report with me.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you can kind of talk about what you do on the back end of jobs there,
Okay.
Bill.
Same thing, usually just for commercial clients. Occasionally on a residential, if it's a really good one, I'll just text them, one or two before and after pictures and say, hey, share these with your friends if you want. But anytime it's a commercial client, always before and afters. And once again, almost always those what I call wow shots. I want the dirtiest possible picture that there is, and be able to, show how well things cleaned up. And another thing I really like about the CompanyCam software is the ghosting of the original image. That was always a real hard thing for me before. I have OCD terribly, and everything has to be neat and organized. And if the angle on the picture wasn't perfect, I'd kick myself all the time. Like, man, if I was just standing 10 feet more to the left, it would have been perfect. I'd get the window in the frame, or that curved angle just right. So being able to ghost that prior image over makes it really easy, especially if you're dealing with larger areas. If I'm doing rust removal and the rust stain is gone, I don't know where it was in the moment. So being able to pull that ghost image up, really allows me to see exactly where it was and be like, okay, well, there it is. It's easy. Now, right where you're at right now, I call those my "was it dirty" pictures. And since this, it's actually its own tagline in the reports. But I say, how dirty was it? And it's always a in process shot, just to show not even so much a side by side, with two different pictures, but in the same shot. Like, this literally just happened. That's how bad it was. And then same thing, those I put in my showcase, and those go straight to the website. I can link it straight to Facebook, anything like that. Or if people, if I'm quoting another job and they say, well, the sidewalks don't look that bad, I can say, well, hold on, and I can just, tag my wow sidewalks, and then have all my in-process pictures of the sidewalks come up and be like, well, does it look that dirty there? And how does it look here? Like, this is like straight down the middle, it's not two separate pictures. This is in the moment shot. And that seems to help out as well. And these reports, I should say, I try and have these out the following morning. Whenever I finish the job, I get home, I'll force myself. It's still a hard habit to sit down and do more work when you get home, but going through and just clicking the little dots over the pictures to put the before and afters together and which template you want, I can pump a picture out in about 15 or 20 seconds, and then just go through and do one for each area and be done in about 15-20 minutes. And then copy that link, send it, attach it to my invoice that I send it to the foreman, send it to the facility manager. If they want to send it to their superiors, they just send the link, and the link it's good forever. I don't have to monitor it. It just stays active. So they could look at it a year from now and be like, what did he do again? And click the link, and there it is.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I will say I try to glean as much information as I can from contractors that I talk to. And so one, I've got a whole bunch of things I've taken from this. I'm going to use the, like, how dirty was it, the wow photos. for wow photos for tags. How dirty was it for kind of those in progress, or how bad was it? How damaged was it? So I really love those two things. So those are a couple nuggets for those of you joining us. A couple things I'm going to just throw on top here that are from contractors I've talked to previously. When it comes to, how do I get more business out of my documentation? How do I turn these before and afters into more business? A couple things. Will Bates, one of probably my best friends I've met through through CompanyCam and as a contractor. He's a roofer in Chicago. He will put before and afters up on his website, or not on his website, sorry, on Facebook, and he'll tag his homeowners. So he'll go in and say, "Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, for allowing us to do this job." I still have a slide in one of my presentations. The first time he did it, he messaged me all proud, and he's like, "Hey, I did it. Like you said, that I should that I should post the before and afters and thank the homeowners." And I was like, "You did great, except for you didn't tag the homeowners." So then he went in the comments and tagged the homeowners. But that picture alone, like that, I've got a screenshot of it at that time, had like 8 shares, hundreds of interactions. And it's wild to think what you can do on social media with, just like you said, sending it to the homeowners or thanking them on social media. Some of these commercial jobs, thanks to I don't remember what the name of the medical center was off the top of my head, Blackwell Medical Tower, for allowing Mr. Mister to, do this job, tag Blackwell Medical Tower to show some of the photos.
Yep.
And you just get
Any
that.
local work like that, especially commercial, I always try and do that to promote them, because it's like, hey, that's how I pitch it to these larger commercial properties is, you're really making it more appealing for your customers and your clients. You're going out of your way, spending your money to make it better for them and their employers. So it's like, trying to give them props, like, hey, these people are really taking care of, their customers, their clients, their employees. So, recognize that. And then, sometimes that gets them extra business, which is, in the end of the day, that's what everyone wants, somewhere, good to go.
Yep, absolutely. And then I've got another contractor that I met quite a few years ago, actually. And I told him, I was like, that seems like the craziest idea I've ever heard. And he explained it to me, and I was like, that's actually probably a really good idea. It did pools, did concrete coatings, just kind of the more decorative outdoor landscaping type stuff. And every Friday morning, his only job was he would go in and look at the completed jobs they had. He would send some sort of before and after or really nice after photo to Walgreens or wherever, local print shop. And he would print them out as postcards and would handwrite a thank you to those homeowners and send it in the mail. And he told me it. I was doing a live presentation, and I was like, "And that sounds like the craziest idea ever." And he's like, "It might be," but he goes, "It accomplishes 2 really important things for me. A, I'm thanking my client, which I want to do. And B, 5%, 10% of those that don't go straight in the trash, because I realize that's where most of them go. Where do they go?" And I was like, "They probably go on the refrigerator." He's like, "Exactly." He goes, I'm getting, and like in your case where it's a very visual transformation with, some of these things, like maybe that's something to try. Not saying you shouldn't, but I was like, that is very intriguing. So I was like, don't those just get thrown away? And he's like, yeah, they probably 95% do. He's like,
So
well, where
New
do you
York
think the other,
times.
he's like, where did the other 5% go? And I was like, refrigerator. And he's like, yeah. He's like, they have somebody over, see it. And I was like, that's really interesting. So just a couple other like little side stories of how I've heard before and afters drive new business. And like you said, just
Absolutely.
that great line of communication, professionalism, honestly, you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said education. I think even on the commercial level, if you can help educate your client on what's going into the job, that plays a huge role. And they almost start to feel like they're an expert. And now not only are they saying like, "Hey, Bill did a great job for me," but I'm not an expert in this space, but some of the different types of stains and things that you're talking about, it's like, yeah, he was able to do this and this with our rust stains and this with this, and they're telling other people that. So yeah, that's great. Let's see. Alejandro says, is there a way to create a customer and then add properties to that one customer. Alejandro, shoot me an email on that. Everything in CompanyCam is done via location. But I think I can talk you through some solutions, because that's obviously a common thing that we deal with, where client owns 10 properties. So shoot me an email. Happy to get you some more information on that. Christian beat me that time. There's my email address. We're kind of running towards the top of the hour here. I will say, any other questions, now's kind of your chance to get those in. Bill, really appreciate you joining us today. I think my goal always is, with these, to at least keep the train on the tracks, hopefully tee up some questions that drives my guests to throw a few nuggets out there. And I would say anybody that joined us today should have gotten a few nuggets from this. There's, just little ways to leverage CompanyCam and your documentation to drive you new business, and to CYA. Any parting shots, Bill? Don't feel pressure, but anything that you feel like we missed? Otherwise, I appreciate you joining us, and I appreciate everybody joining us and jumping in with us today.
Yeah, I think we covered everything. All my little note sheets are all scratched off and everything. I think I had squirrel moments here and there, and ran all over the place and tied things in around. So
honestly, some of the best nuggets come from those squirrel moments. We went down a few rabbit holes that I didn't have on my phone here to kind of bring up, and I think we got some pretty good nuggets out of those rabbit holes. So again, Bill, thank you so much. Those of you that joined us, thank you. Can you review checklists, please? Yeah, Amy, give me a little more context of what you're looking for on checklists. Essentially, the way our checklists work is you can have a templated one that would be more for like an inspection, or a pre-job type of thing, or a post-job type of thing, where my team's doing the same process every time. Or you can create on-the-fly checklists that would be more turned into like that punch list type of thing, where it's like, hey, I'm walking a job, and these are the 6 things that we're going to need to make sure we get done, fixed, whatever that may be. And again, happy to dive deeper in that via email. Just a little more color on what you're looking for on checklists. Okay, yeah, from the punch list perspective, yeah. You can essentially add to your checklist as you're walking, or you can create your checklist as you're kind of walking. You can add a picture for reference. You can require a picture for completion, or to check that off. But yeah, just a really easy way to make sure that work's getting done, either consistently using a checklist template, or making sure work gets done using the on-the-fly type checklist creation. So if that didn't answer your question, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll have your CS customer success rep reach out, and they can dive deeper with you. So again, Bill, thank you so much. Christian, thanks for being in the background. Appreciate you as always. And we will see you guys here. I think we've got another webinar coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see you all again soon. Thanks, guys.
thank you. Bye-bye.